Inside ADX Florence, America's most secure prison. Before we get lost in the darkest corners of this story, hit subscribe so you never miss the secrets hiding behind the steel doors of the world's most secure prisons. Now, let's step inside. They call ADX Florence the Alcatraz of the Rockies, a fortress carved into the Colorado desert, where the most high-risk inmates in the United States spend years isolated from the world. But the story you're about to hear didn't begin inside the cell blocks. It began with a single frantic phone call that came in just after sunrise, long before the world knew something had gone terribly wrong. The call came from a correctional officer who had worked the overnight shift. His voice was steady, trained, but there was something else beneath the surface, a hesitation, almost fear. He reported that during a routine security scan, he discovered something unusual inside one of the most controlled wings of the prison, a handwritten letter, hidden in a vent that should have been impossible for any inmate to reach. The letter wasn't addressed to anyone, but the first line sent a ripple of urgency through the command center. I know what really happened here. At ADX, nothing gets overlooked. Every object, every step, every movement is logged. For something to appear where it shouldn't, someone had to put it there. And inside a facility designed to prevent even the smallest unsanctioned interaction, that alone was enough to trigger an internal investigation. By the time Special Agent Daniel Kell arrived on site, the warden had already sealed off the entire wing. Kell wasn't new to the bureau. He had worked cases involving high-security breaches, escaped suspects, and internal corruption. But ADX Florence was different. Everything here stayed under strict control. If something was out of place, it meant the system itself had shifted. Warden Elias Rowan was a man whose posture looked like it had been carved from the same concrete as the prison walls. He handed Kell the letter without a word. The handwriting was tight and deliberate, like the author was trying not to shake. "We found it at 5:14 a.m., Rowan finally said. No cameras recorded anyone near that vent. No log shows any inmate movement. And every officer on duty accounted for themselves." Kell studied the vent cover, stainless steel, triple secured, with no sign of tampering. "This vent," he said, "is locked from the outside." Rowan nodded. "That's the problem." The letter offered no signature, no initials. Just a second line. "If this reaches you, the truth is already slipping away." Kell asked to see the cell closest to the vent. It belonged to an inmate named Marcus Hale, a former financial mastermind serving multiple life sentences for orchestrating a massive fraud scheme that left entire communities devastated. Hale was known for being intelligent, quiet, and obsessively observant. But he had no history of rule-breaking inside the prison. No contraband. No disciplinary actions. Nothing. When Kell entered the observation booth, Hale was seated on his bed, hands resting calmly on his knees. He looked up with an expression that was neither guilty nor afraid, simply curious. "I hear my name came up this morning," Hale said. "We found something unusual in your wing," Kell replied. "A letter. Near your cell." Hale raised an eyebrow. "And you think I put it there?" "I think," Kell said slowly, "that you're one of the only people who could have noticed something others missed." Hale leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Agent Kell, you're looking in the wrong direction. If a message appeared without anyone placing it, maybe the question isn't who put it there, but who wants you to think it was found." Before Kell could respond, an alarm blared through the corridor, short, sharp, and urgent. Officers sprinted past the booth. Rowan reappeared, breath tight. "We have a situation," he said. "Cell D14. We need you now." Kell followed the warden down the hall as steel doors unlocked one by one. When they reached the cell, two officers stepped aside. Rowan opened the door slowly, revealing something that made Kell's chest tighten. There, placed neatly on the center of the bed, was another letter, identical paper, identical handwriting. But this one had only 3 words. "You're already late." And underneath it lay a small object that should never have made it inside ADX Florence. A key. The key that shouldn't exist. The room fell silent as Agent Kell stared at the small metallic key lying on the bed. It wasn't rusted. It wasn't improvised. It didn't belong in a place like ADX Florence, A prison where every door was electronically controlled, every lock tracked, every inch of architecture designed to eliminate the need for physical keys. Where did this come from? Kel asked quietly. Warden Rowan didn't answer immediately. He stepped inside the cell, examining the key without touching it. No one in this wing carries manual keys, he said. Even I don't. And this doesn't match anything in our facility database. Kel's mind raced. A message that shouldn't appear. A key that shouldn't exist. Someone inside ADX Florence was sending signals, but the target was unclear. He slipped on gloves and carefully retrieved the key. It was small, silver, and smooth on the edges, not handmade. Factory produced. On the back, someone had etched a marking so faint it took the light at the right angle to reveal it. A single number, 12. What's in Sector 12?
Kel asked.
Rowan frowned. There is no Sector 12. Then what does the number mean?
The warden didn't respond.
For the first time since Kel arrived, Rowan's expression cracked. Something unsettled him. A deception. A break in protocol. Or a truth he didn't want to admit. Kel pocketed the key in an evidence bag. I want to pull every roster. Night shift logs. Maintenance access. Digital records. If this key belongs to something or someone, will find it. Before Rowan could respond, an officer approached the cell. Warden, we have another issue. The security feed for this entire corridor glitched between 3:47 and 3:52 a.m. 5 minutes of partial blackout. Blackout. Rowan repeated. That's impossible. This level has triple redundancy. Kel stepped toward the officer. Show me. The control room felt like the nerve center of a submarine. Dim lighting, rows of screens, operators hunched over monitors. One technician rewound the footage and pressed play. At 3:47 a.m., the screen flickered. Not fully off, not fully on. A soft static haze rolled across the cameras, shadows bending at strange angles as if the lens were struggling to focus. A figure passed briefly at the edge of frame, impossible to identify. Pause, Kel ordered. The figure's silhouette was blurred, almost smudged by the distortion. The height, the posture, something about it struck Kel as familiar, but the interference made it impossible to confirm. Could an inmate slip out during a blackout?
Kel asked.
No, Rowan said firmly. They're confined by multiple layers of security. Even if they breached their cell, which we would detect, they couldn't leave the wing. Kel nodded, but something about Rowan's certainty felt too rigid, too rehearsed. What about staff?
Kel asked.
Was anyone in this area at this time? Rowan hesitated. That hesitation was all Kel needed. Who was it, Elias? The warden exhaled slowly. Officer Lillian Dre. She was assigned to overnight inspections of this corridor. Did she file her report?
No.
Where is she now? We're trying to reach her. Kel turned sharply. Trying? Or she's missing? Rowan's silence provided the answer. By late morning, the search began. ADX Florence might have been a concrete fortress from the outside, but inside it was a labyrinth, tunnels, observation decks, mechanical rooms, access points known only to staff. Kel joined a tactical team sweeping the lower levels, checking every door, every maintenance hatch. Officer Dre was one of our best, Rowan said as they walked. Quiet.
Precise.
No disciplinary issues. She transferred here 2 years ago. Background?
Kel asked. Clean.
Almost too clean. No relatives on record. No prior postings that stand out. They turned a corner and approached a reinforced door leading to an old storage wing no longer in use. This area hasn't been accessed in months, Rowan said. Yet the digital lock blinked red. Unauthorized access detected. Rowan froze. That shouldn't be possible. Kel reached into his pocket, pulled out the evidence bag, and held the small key up to the lock. The metal matched the outline almost perfectly. It looks like Sector 12 does exist after all, Kel said. He inserted the key. The lock clicked. The door creaked open, revealing darkness stretching down a long corridor that wasn't on any official blueprint. Rows of lights flickered to life one by one. At the far end of the hall, something was lying on the floor, motionless. Rowan whispered. Is that? Kel didn't wait. He stepped forward quickly, heart tightening as the figure came into view. There, in the center of the forgotten corridor, was Officer Lillian Drey's badge. Just the badge. And, beside it, a third letter. This one had a single line. Stop looking for her. The corridor that wasn't supposed to exist. Agent Kel stared at the badge on the ground, its polished surface reflecting the flickering lights overhead. Officer Lillian Drey was nowhere in sight. No footprints, no signs of struggle, no trace of where she had gone. Just her badge and the letter that warned them to stop. Warden Rowan crouched beside the badge, but he didn't touch it. This corridor shouldn't exist, he murmured. I've been warden here for 7 years. I've memorized every wing, every maintenance tunnel. This isn't on any schematic. Kel scanned the long, narrow hallway. The air felt different, colder, slightly metallic. The walls were older here, the paint faded. This wasn't part of the modern facility. This was a remnant of something built long before the current generation of staff arrived. Whoever left that key, Kel said, wanted us to find this place. But why leave Drey's badge? Rowan asked. Why not her? That's the point, Kel said quietly. We're supposed to wonder. He lifted the letter from the floor. Same handwriting. Same crisp paper. A pattern was forming. Someone with intimate knowledge of the prison was controlling the pace of the investigation. And they wanted Kel to follow. Seal this area behind us, Kel told the tactical team. No one comes or goes. I want a forensic sweep. Rowan nodded, but the tension in his jaw revealed something deeper, a fear he wasn't accustomed to showing. The forensic team moved in quickly. Their tools buzzed softly in the still corridor. Every few seconds, another light flickered overhead, casting moving shadows along the walls. Kel reviewed the doorframe. No signs of forced entry, no scratches. Whoever placed the badge and letter here had used the key, the same key that shouldn't exist. One technician approached. Agent Kel, you need to see this. He led Kel deeper into the corridor. At the far end, a single security camera hung from the ceiling. Old model, dust-covered. But the small red light on its casing was blinking. It's active, the technician said, but not connected to the current surveillance grid. Completely independent. Kel raised a brow. Independent how? It's running on a separate power line. Someone wired it to bypass the main system. Can you access the feed? Trying now. Moments later, a portable monitor crackled to life. Static danced across the screen before clearing into a grainy black and white image. The timestamp indicated the footage was from earlier that same morning, right during the unexplained blackout. Kel leaned closer. The camera showed the corridor empty at first. Then, at 3:49 a.m., a figure stepped into view. The person wore a correctional uniform. They moved slowly, deliberately, as if making sure they weren't being followed. Officer Lillian Drey. She paced the corridor alone, glancing behind her twice. She wasn't distressed. She wasn't being chased. She seemed waiting. Then she crouched down, placed her badge carefully on the ground, and set a folded letter beside it. A 20-second pause. Then she looked toward the camera, directly at it, and mouthed something. The image was too unclear to read, but Kel felt the message wasn't random. Drey stood, stepped back into the darkness at the end of the corridor, and vanished. No one followed. No one forced her. No one appeared in the frame after she left. Just her. Rowan swallowed hard. Why would she leave her badge? Why walk into a place that shouldn't exist? Kel played the footage again, watching Drey's movements with a trained eye. Her posture wasn't that of someone under duress. It was rehearsed, controlled. She knew this camera was here, Kel said. Someone told her exactly where to stand. The technician approached again. There's something else. The door at the end of the corridor, the one Drey walked through. It's sealed from the inside. No lock. No keyhole. Kel's eyes narrowed. So, how did she open it? That's what we don't understand, the technician said. It shouldn't open at all. Rowan stepped forward, rubbing his temple. This can't be happening inside ADX. There are no secret rooms. No access points we don't know about. Apparently, Kel said, there are. He turned his attention back to Dre's last known direction. The sealed door stood like a silent witness at the end of the hall. We need to get that door open, Kel said. The technician hesitated. Sir, that door's construction is unlike anything in the facility. We scanned it. It's layered, multiple composite materials, almost like it was designed to be permanent. Kel stepped closer to the door, the air colder the nearer he got. He placed a hand on its surface and felt a vibration.
Faint. Steady.
A hum beneath the metal. Rowan noticed his reaction. What is it? Kel slowly exhaled. There's something running on the other side. He stepped back, studying the impossible door. Who built this hallway? Why was Officer Dre here willingly? And what was humming behind the sealed barrier?
Kel turned to Rowan.
Get me cutting equipment, he said. We're opening it. As Rowan radioed his team, Kel looked once more at the floor where Dre had stood. Why tell them to stop looking for her? Unless she didn't want to be found. Behind the door, the cutting equipment arrived within the hour, the corridor filling with the low hum of machinery and the uneasy murmurs of officers who sensed they were standing somewhere they were never meant to be. The sealed door at the end of the hallway loomed like a forgotten monument, cold and unyielding, its surface flawless, and out of place inside ADX Florence. Agent Kel supervised as a technician set the industrial cutter in position. Sparks erupted in brief bursts as the blade met the door, and barely scratched it. This material, it's stronger than composite steel, the technician muttered. I've never seen anything like it. Keep going, Kel said. The technician increased the power. The blade screeched. More sparks. But the progress was agonizingly slow, mere millimeters cut after several minutes of effort. Whatever this door was made of, it wasn't standard issue. It was intentionally designed to resist intrusion. Rowan folded his arms. This makes no sense. ADX was built in the 1990s. Nothing in our construction records mentions anything like this. Kel studied the sealed door once more. Its edges were seamless, flush with the wall, as if it had been installed long before the surrounding structure existed. Maybe this wasn't built with the prison, he said. Maybe it was here before. Rowan's jaw tightened at the suggestion. Before ADX? The land was surveyed repeatedly. Kel didn't respond. Something in his instincts pushed him forward. The humming he felt earlier was still there, faint, rhythmic, mechanical. Something active was behind this barrier. Something functioning. And someone Officer Lillian Dre had gone through willingly. Sir, the technician called out. You need to see this. The cutter had finally breached a thin line through the door surface. Through the narrow opening, a thin stream of cold air escaped, far colder than the corridor. The temperature drop was immediate, raising a chill on Kel's arms. The technician stepped back. Whatever's behind this, it's freezing. Widen the cut, Kel ordered. It took another 20 minutes before a small section of the door loosened. With the help of 2 officers, the technician pried the metal panel free. It fell to the floor with a muted thud. Behind it was darkness. Kel clicked on a tactical flashlight and leaned forward. For a moment, the beam illuminated a narrow chamber, lined with old wiring and metal conduits. The architecture looked older, almost industrial, like a tunnel from another era. What is this place? Rowan whispered. Kel stepped closer. As he scanned the walls, the beam caught something ahead, a narrow stairway descending into darkness. The vibration he'd felt earlier grew slightly stronger. The hum was coming from below. He turned to Rowan. I'm going in. Rowan hesitated. We should assemble a full team. We don't know what's down there. If we wait, Kel said, we risk losing whoever or whatever is behind this. Officer Dre may be in danger. Rowan finally nodded. 2 officers go with him. The rest hold position. Kel descended first. The stairs creaked underfoot, dust shaking loose from the old metal rails. Halfway down, the temperature dropped further. His breath fogged faintly in the light. At the base of the stairs, the walls opened into a long, subterranean corridor. Rusted pipes ran along the ceiling. The floor was uneven, stained by years of condensation. This was not part of any operational prison design. One of the officers shined a light on the wall. "Sir, look at this." Faded paint flaked away beneath his gloved hand, revealing stenciled letters. U.S. Facility, Sublevel 3. Restricted Operations. Rowan, still on the stairs above, inhaled sharply. ADX doesn't have sublevels. It never did. Kel spoke quietly. Maybe ADX wasn't built over empty land after all. As they advanced deeper, the humming grew clearer, methodical, mechanical, almost like a ventilation system or outdated machinery still operating despite the years. Then Kel saw something ahead. A doorway. Open. A faint light flickered inside the room beyond. He raised his flashlight slowly, and the beam caught a desk covered in dust. Old monitors. Outdated keyboards. A thick binder labeled Operations Log, 1991 lay open, as if someone had recently turned the pages. But what froze Kel wasn't the desk. It was the chair beside it. A correctional officer's jacket draped neatly over the back. Officer Lillian Dre's jacket. Still warm. One of the officers whispered. She was just here. Kel moved forward quickly, scanning the room. "Dre," he called out, voice echoing through the sublevel. Silence. Then something caught his attention. A small device on the wall flashing a faint amber light. Kel walked closer. A keypad. Above it, a handwritten note taped to the metal surface. "You're close." Kel stared at the message. Under it, a 4-digit code was scrawled hastily. Kel exhaled slowly. Someone wanted him to open that door. Someone who knew he wouldn't stop. He looked at the keypad, then back at Rowan. And then, without hesitation, he pressed the first number. The hardest truth about ADX Florence is that nothing happens by accident. Every movement is monitored, every door is logged, and every silence usually means someone is planning something. But even after the violent clash between Torres's men and the guards, investigators realized the incident had been nothing more than the opening act. Something deeper was unfolding inside the Supermax. Something older. Something buried beneath years of sealed reports and administrative denials. Agent Mia Rennick stepped into the small, windowless interview room. The cameras above didn't blink, but she knew they were recording every breath. Across the table sat the oldest inmate in the block, a man whose name had been redacted from Air Force records and intelligence databases. The team called him Spectre. No one knew what he had done, only that he had been transferred to ADX under a midnight military order 15 years earlier. Spectre rested his hands calmly on the table as if he had been expecting her. "You're looking in the wrong place," he said before she could speak. "You think Torres orchestrated this to break out. But he wasn't trying to escape." Mia leaned forward. "Then what was he doing?" "He was trying to draw your attention," Spectre answered. "To the one inmate you've ignored." Mia felt a chill travel up her spine. The investigation files mentioned nothing about another suspect. But Spectre's voice carried something unnerving certainty. He continued. "Before the riot, before Torres made his move, the medical wing reported an anomaly. A prisoner who shouldn't exist. Look at the intake logs. Someone was added without a name." Mia didn't want to admit it, but she had seen the entry. One blank line between 2 routine transfers, logged at 2:30 in the morning. No signature. No identification. Just a cell number, D13. ADX Florence didn't make mistakes like that. Spectre leaned back slowly. "If you want the truth, you have to go down there. But you won't like what you find." Mia walked out of the interview room with her heart beating fast, every step echoing down the fluorescent hallway. She headed to the administrative records office, and after 15 minutes of pressure, the clerk reluctantly handed her the physical intake log. The blank entry was still there. A ghost inmate. She radioed Warden Hayes. "I need immediate access to D13.
There was a long pause on the line.
Too long. "Mia, that unit is restricted. Even I don't open those doors without higher clearance." "So, who authorized the last one?" Silence. Then Hayes whispered, "I don't know." That was the moment Mia realized she had stumbled onto something far beyond a prison riot or a gang dispute. Someone powerful was using ADX as a silent vault, locking away a person whose existence had been erased everywhere else. Mia refused to wait for clearance. She swiped her badge, but the scanner flashed red. She tried again.
Red.
Then a guard approached, glancing over his shoulder nervously. He handed her a separate badge, one without a name. "Taurus told us to give you this if anything happened to him," the guard murmured. "Said it was the only way you'd find the truth." Mia inserted the badge.
Green.
The reinforced steel door to Unit D hissed open. The hallway was darker than the others, quiet in a way that felt manufactured. No voices, no footsteps, no distant rumble of doors. Just a long stretch of concrete and a row of numbered cells. She stopped at D13. The door had 4 locks instead of 2. The observation window was blacked out from the inside. Mia typed in the override code. The door released with a metallic boom. Inside the cell was nothing. No bed, no mattress, no toilet, no inmate. Just a metal chair bolted to the ground and a single sheet of paper resting on it. Mia stepped forward, her pulse hammering. The paper had only 3 words, typed neatly. "You're too late." Her stomach dropped. Behind her, an alarm suddenly blared through the hallway. Steel shutters slammed down. Red lights flashed. Hayes shouted through her radio. "Rennick, get out of there. We've lost containment. Someone's breached the east exit."
Someone.
Not something. A human being who had been held off the books, hidden in a cell, without a trace. And now they were gone. Mia sprinted back toward the main corridor, but the last shutter was already closing. She dove just in time, landing hard on the floor as the prison shook with the sound of lockdown. Guards were shouting. Sirens were wailing. And the security feed showed a blurred figure in a gray jumpsuit slipping through an emergency door that should never have opened. The ghost inmate was real. And free. Hayes grabbed Mia's arm. "Do you realize what you just uncovered? Whoever that was, every agency in the country has been trying to forget they exist." Mia stared at the frozen security image. A man with his face partially turned away, but visible enough to make her blood run cold. She recognized him. He had been declared dead 8 years ago. A classified government asset, erased from every official record. And now he was walking out of the most secure prison in America without leaving a trace. Mia whispered. This wasn't a prison break. It was an extraction. As the alarms echoed across the Colorado desert, she realized one final truth. Torres hadn't been the story. He had been the distraction. And whatever walked out of ADX Florence that night was the real danger. A danger now loose in the world. "If you thought this case was intense," Mia said quietly, "wait until you hear what happened after he escaped. Hit subscribe, you won't want to miss what comes next."